So in the brochure of the retreats, you have this idea of the fellowship for Magellan, and then you have these 3 explicit retreats. Could you say a little something about that, how that fits in with the courses?
Yeah, the brochure, which is quite large and has a lot of information in it, it arose kind of organically. I've been thinking about doing some retreats in the context that we discussed before, and I was suffering from 30 years of doing advertising for a landscape design build company,
right,
and feeling that all the offerings, all the versions of the retreat announcement I was making rang flat. They came across as being polished and somewhat jingly, and didn't reflect what my most authentic, let's say, desires were, or offering could be, or invitation. And at this time there was a lot of initiatives coming online from the integral community at large and the Occupy movement. A lot of people were designing information for group cohesion. And one of the things that I noticed when I was reading them, even though I identified and appreciated a lot of the really good work and thoughtful work that went into some of these initiatives, there was something that was bothering me, and it may be my hypercritical mind was observing this in relationship to what I was trying to do. But what I noticed in my earlier versions and in many of these initiatives began to become what I started to see as performative contradictions.
Yep.
So I was seeing initiatives that were being offered as having value in the new economy, but were really expensive. This was at the time Integral Schultz came around and talked about this disconnect between what was happening in the language of the offerings and then the structure of the engagement itself. I also noticed this in initiatives that were being offered that use language as if the offering was co-emergent or co-creative or self-organizing, but the menu offered was very controlled. So from 8 to 9 we did this, and 9 to 10 we did that. There were offerings where there was performative contradiction between the stated goals and the process by which those goals were intended to be met. And so what I drew from that is I was looking at my own attempts and seeing a great deal of performative contradiction. And I started to use that and that alone as the methodology to create and design what I was envisioning for the retreats. And so the first level that came out of that process was regardless of the content, what is this about getting together? You know, why should people get together, or must people? What's the value of getting together in this way? Is it a new way of getting together? And that's where the notion of the fellowship came out of. That it was some of the performative contradictions I saw in the other offerings was there was a leader who was going to present something, or there was a group that was going to be the lead group or something. And so with absent a leader, we don't have followers. So I started thinking of fellowships. And then I was thinking that was the very basic notion of fellowship. You know, Trungpa talks about very basic sanity. And I was realizing that despite all the interest in a whole new mind and post-dialectical thinking, the notion of getting together is really based in something very basic human kindness, I ended up writing. The relationship of mentoring and receiving mentorship. And so that whole introduction of the fellowship I thought was important to describe the quality of the embodied engagement that was appropriate to the quality of the online engagement in the Magellan courses.